It is unimaginable grief for the parents of a USC student beaten to death last week. They just arrived in the U.S. today.
The mother and father of murdered USC grad school student Xinran T. Devastated.
Xinran is the only child of the parents. They really use all of their savings to support Xinran to come to U.S. to study. And it's like heaven fall down, you know, the sky fall down. So, because that's their hope, he's their hope, the only hope.
Welcome to Crime Documentary Files. On July 24, 2014, 1 week after the untimely death of Xinran, a graduate student in electrical engineering at the University of Southern California, his parents hurried to the United States. Upon seeing their son's body, both parents were overcome with grief, crying uncontrollably and needing support to stand. So, what tragic event befell this promising 24-year-old Chinese student? Why was his life abruptly cut short? Today, we will delve into the murder case of Xinran, which shocked the Chinese community in 2014. The incident took place in Los Angeles, one of the most popular cities among the Chinese in the U.S. Although the crime rate here is 1.15 times higher than the California average and 1.26 times higher than the national average, it doesn't diminish the city's allure. With its dreamy Hollywood, sunny beaches, stunning landscapes, and abundant job opportunities, Los Angeles remains uniquely attractive, drawing many talents to pursue their dreams here, including our main character, Xinran. Xinran was born on April 20th, 1990, in Hohhot, Inner Mongolia. He came from an intellectual family. His father, Ji Songbo, graduated from Dalian University of Technology and is a postgraduate advisor in the Department of Electronic Information Engineering at Inner Mongolia University of Technology. His mother, Du Jianhui, is a doctor and currently serves as the head of the department at the affiliated hospital of Inner Mongolia Medical University. Although Xinran was an only child, he was not spoiled. His parents always encouraged him to succeed through hard work and education. With his innate intelligence and diligence, Xinran lived up to his family's expectations. In 2009, he was admitted to the prestigious Zhejiang University with outstanding grades. Xinran's undergraduate research project focused on the design and control of a quadcopter system. This project earned him the first-class scholarship for excellent and innovative research in December 2012. During his third year in 2011, Xinran went to the United States as an exchange student at the University of California. This short-term study abroad experience broadened his horizons and motivated him to pursue further studies in the U.S. after graduation. Upon graduating in 2013, Xinran applied for master's programs and quickly received invitations from 6 American universities. After careful consideration, he chose the renowned University of Southern California. Founded in 1880, this private university has produced 10 Nobel laureates and numerous stars in sports, film, and television over the past century. Xinran began his graduate studies in the Department of Electrical Engineering at USC in 2013. After more than a year of studying, he told his family and friends that he increasingly liked it there and had even decided to pursue a PhD after completing his master's degree. However, in the summer of 2014, when Xinran was just 24 years old, he encountered a terrible disaster. At 12:40 a.m. on Thursday, July 24, 2014, Xinran and some classmates had just finished a group discussion on a topic at the university campus. At this point, the students began walking home as they all lived near the campus, just a few minutes away. Since there was a female student in the group, Xinran offered to walk her home. Let's look at the map. The University of Southern California is located here. The female student lived on West 30th St. next to the university. Xinran's apartment was right next door, at 1246 to 1247 West 29th St. It was an apartment called City Park. Xinran lived on the 4th floor with 3 roommates. After safely walking the female student home, Xinran began heading towards his own apartment. It was 12:45 a.m. A few hours later, at around 7 a.m., Xinran's roommate, Feng Yunyun, frantically called the police and reported that his roommate, Xinran, was lying on the bed in the next room, covered in blood. Let's look at the floor plan of this apartment. Xinran's apartment was on the 4th floor, room 408. It was a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment. Upon entering the main door, the kitchen and living room were on the left, and Xinran's room was directly opposite the door. When the police arrived at the scene, they found it incredibly gruesome. Near 2 large cardboard boxes in the living room was a large pool of blood. In Xinran's room, there were bloodstains on the walls, headboard, desk, clothes, and shoes. Xinran was lying on the bed, covered in blood, with multiple injuries on his body. His head had been severely beaten, and there were no signs of life. From questioning the roommate, Feng Yunyun, the police learned that the apartment usually housed 4 people, 2 males and 2 females in separate rooms. However, since it was summer break, 1 male and 1 female had returned home. Currently, only she and Xinran were staying in the apartment. When asked if anything unusual had happened the previous night, Feng Yunyun said that everything was normal before she went to bed. There were no bloodstains. Around 3 a.m., she heard a loud sniffing sound from the next room. She thought Xinran might have caught a cold, so she didn't pay much attention. But when she woke up in the morning, she found blood all over the apartment and ran into Xinran's room, only to find him lying on the bed, no longer breathing. Upon thoroughly examining the scene, the police found that the apartment's doors and windows were intact, with no signs of forced entry. Xinran's backpack, wallet, watch, and car keys were all untouched. There were also no signs of a struggle inside the apartment. Considering the bloodstains extended outside the apartment, even in the building's elevator, the police theorized that the apartment might not have been the primary crime scene. Xinran could have been injured elsewhere and then returned to the apartment, eventually succumbing to his injuries. Following the blood trail, the police tracked it from Xinran's apartment to near West 29th St. Here. The bloodstains were significantly more, indicating that Xinran had been attacked and had stopped here for a considerable amount of time. The police split into 2 groups. One group reviewed nearby security cameras to see if the crime had been recorded, and the other used the media to both publicize the crime and actively seek out witnesses who might have seen what happened. Upon carefully reviewing the surveillance footage, the police discovered that on that night, as Xinran was walking towards his apartment, 3 individuals suddenly jumped out of a car and started punching and kicking him. The camera footage was too blurry to clearly identify the suspects. In an attempt to escape the group, Xinran ran into a nearby alley. However, one of the attackers quickly caught up to him. This individual appeared to be holding a weapon and continued to assault Xinran. Xinran, trying desperately to fend off the attacker, was soon surrounded by the other 2 assailants. Faced with 3 armed individuals, Xinran was unable to defend himself effectively and could only use his arms to shield himself from the blows. Perhaps unable to bear witnessing the horrific scene, the 4th individual who had been sitting in the car started the vehicle, preparing to leave the scene. The 3 attackers, noticing the car starting, ceased their assault on Xinran and quickly got back into the car before driving away.
I think it's a big loss for the Chinese community, even though I didn't know the students. But no one deserved this.
It's really sad to know, this kind of things happen to our people.
It's very, very scary, and I'm moving into this complex this coming semester, this year. So that makes me wonder, is this the right decision, like having something like this happen?
Although the media reported that the 4 suspects were on the run, causing widespread fear and concern in the area, the police had already identified the 4 suspects shortly after the crime occurred. Since the investigation was still ongoing, they did not disclose this information to the public. Fortunately, just a few hours after the crime, the suspects were apprehended. While the security cameras did not capture clear images of the suspects' faces or the license plate, the police managed to track clues from the car. By continuously reviewing surveillance footage, they eventually identified the vehicle as a 1993 Honda Accord. Tracking the car's movements after the crime, the police were surprised to find that approximately 2 hours after the assault, at around 3 a.m. on July 24th, The vehicle had arrived at Dockweiler Beach, which is about a 30-minute drive from the University of Southern California. At the beach, the same group robbed a couple, Claudia and Jesus Flores, who were taking a walk. Claudia, terrified, knelt down and handed over the only $40 she had. Her boyfriend, Jesus, tried to protect her and was hit with a baseball bat by one of the robbers. However, Jesus was quick-witted. When he fell, he seized the opportunity to run toward the inland area near the beach, shouting for help as he went. The robbers, realizing what was happening, grabbed their baseball bat and chased after him. Fortunately, before they could get far, Jesus flagged down a police patrol car. Sensing the situation turning against them, the suspects scattered. They didn't get far before the police apprehended them. The four suspects were Alejandra Guerrero, 16, Alberto Ochoa, 17, Andrew Garcia, 18, and the driver, Jonathan Del Carmen, 19. In fact, when the assault on Xinran occurred, there were 5 people in the car. However, the police later determined that a 14-year-old girl in the vehicle did not participate in the crime, and they eventually dropped charges against her.
Breaking news, police have made multiple arrests in a USC grad student's murder. The 24-year-old from China was attacked while walking home and later was found dead in his apartment near campus.
He's an international student from China attending the University of Southern California working on his master's degree. As he was walking towards his home, he was set upon by a group of individuals, we believe 5, and those 5 individuals accosted him, beat him severely, and in what we believe may have been an attempt robbery. But the technology that the University of Southern California and the Los Angeles Police Department have invested in this area has gone a long way towards helping us solve this crime.
One day after the incident, at 3 a.m. Beijing time on July 25th, Los Angeles police contacted Xinran's parents in China to inform them of the tragic news. Hearing this, both parents couldn't believe their ears and thought the police had made a mistake. How could their son have been murdered? By 7 a.m., after contacting the consulate, they finally confirmed the news. Although they immediately applied for an emergency visa, the U.S. online visa system happened to be down at that time. As a result, Xinran's parents couldn't arrive in the U.S. until 6 days after the incident, on July 30th. Meanwhile, the court hearing for the 4 suspects had taken place 2 days earlier, causing them to miss the opportunity to see their son's killers. On July 31st, during a press conference at the funeral home, Ji Songbo and Du Jianhui wept uncontrollably and were unable to answer questions from the media. 2 years earlier, in the case of the murders of Chinese exchange students Ming Qiu and Ying Wu at the University of Southern California, the sight of grieving parents at the press conference was eerily similar. At the press conference, Xinran's parents did not respond to reporters' questions. Instead, their relative Liu Lisheng spoke on their behalf. Liu Lisheng stated, "Xinran was the only son in the family. We can all imagine the devastation this incident has caused his parents. When they received the news, it was as if the sky had fallen for them." Liu Lisheng mentioned that Xinran returned home once during Christmas last year, not knowing it would be the last time he saw his parents. This summer, his parents hoped he would come home for the break, but Xinran wanted to graduate early and chose to take a summer course instead. Xinran was the only child in his family and the only grandson of both sets of grandparents. When they heard the news of his murder, all 4 elderly grandparents were devastated and fell ill. Liu Lisheng said, "The 4 elders are quite old and had to endure such a shock. We are very worried about whether they can handle it." Additionally, he made a strong call to action. Improve the security environment around the University of Southern California, ensure the safety of students' lives, and prevent similar tragedies from happening again. Finally, a year after the incident in 2015, the 4 defendants and their attorneys attended a court hearing. Since all 4 pleaded not guilty, the highest sentence the prosecutor could seek was the death penalty. Given the severity of the entire case, the prosecutor also decided to try the 2 minors, Alejandra Guerrero, 16, and Alberto Ochoa, 17, as adults. This was because if tried in juvenile court, these delinquents could be released around the age of 25. In an interview with the media, the attorney representing Xinran's family stated that they hoped to punish these young offenders in the harshest way possible. 2 years after the incident, in September 2016, Alejandra Guerrero, the only female among the 4 criminals, was the first to stand trial. Throughout the proceedings, she appeared indifferent and showed no remorse for the crime she had committed. Alejandra not only showed no intention of repenting, but she also occasionally laughed out loud. At the trial, her defense attorney argued that at the time of the crime, his client was only 16 years old and therefore too young to be the mastermind behind the crime. The lawyer stated that while his client did chase after the victim, she did not inflict serious harm on Xinran. According to him, it was only after Xinran retaliated that Alejandra acted in self-defense. The defense claimed that it was a justifiable act of self-defense, implying that Xinran was the one to blame.
My client is not guilty and not responsible for the murder of Xinran. The evidence will show that my client was not the leader.
However, the prosecution was not easily fooled. Prosecutor Candy emphasized that the surveillance cameras told the whole story. There was no footage showing Xinran retaliating during the attack. He was merely trying to escape from the group. When Xinran reached West 29th Street, Andrew Garcia was the first to catch up, followed closely by Alejandra Guerrero. At that moment, Guerrero was holding a wrench, a potentially deadly weapon. Not only did the surveillance footage show Guerrero attacking the victim, but the prosecution's forensic expert also found Guerrero's fingerprints, DNA, and traces of the victim on the wrench. After just a few hours of deliberation, the jury unanimously found Alejandra Guerrero guilty of first-degree murder. The judge sentenced her to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Guerrero appealed the verdict twice, arguing that she was under the influence of drugs at the time of the crime, and was only 16 years old, not of legal age. She requested a retrial and a reduced sentence. In 2020, the California Court of Appeal accepted her appeal and recommended a review of her sentence. However, after a retrial in 2021, the judge decided to uphold the original sentence. In 2017, the trial of Andrew Garcia, the main perpetrator, began. The police called investigator Matthew, who had interrogated Garcia, to testify. He stated that at the time of the crime, their group had been driving around the university area for several minutes. When they saw the victim walking alone on the street, they saw him as an easy target.
Mr. Garcia's body type, his hairstyle, his clothing match what I see as the first individual chasing after Mr. G. And also, I came to that conclusion based upon my conversation with Mr. Garcia as well as some of the other defendants in this case.
After getting out of the car, the 17-year-old named Alberto Ochoa was the first to attack. He swung a baseball bat towards Xinran. Instinctively, Xinran used his arm to block the blow and refused to hand over his backpack. Ochoa then punched Xinran in the face, breaking his glasses and causing his nose to bleed. Xinran did not fight back or struggle. He quickly ran away from the scene. Then, 18-year-old Andrew Garcia took the baseball bat from Ochoa and was the first to give chase. Following him, 16-year-old Alejandra Guerrero grabbed a wrench and hit Xinran. Ochoa, the third to pursue, retrieved the baseball bat from Garcia and continued to assault Xinran. According to the forensic report, Xinran had clear defensive wounds on his right arm and the back of his hand, indicating he tried to shield himself. His nose was broken, his eye suffered internal bleeding, and he sustained at least 6 severe blows to the head. These attacks fractured his skull, causing a brain hemorrhage, which was the cause of death. His skull was broken into 3 pieces. The fatal blow was not from the wrench, but the baseball bat. However, since both Garcia and Ochoa had used the bat, it was impossible to determine who delivered the fatal strike. Faced with 3 armed assailants, Xinran had no chance to fight back during the attack. Meanwhile, 19-year-old Jonathan Del Carmen, who was sitting in the car as the driver, couldn't bear the scene and decided to drive away alone. When the attackers noticed Del Carmen preparing to flee, they stopped assaulting Xinran, got into the car, and fled the scene together. Based on the fingerprints on the baseball bat, DNA blood evidence, and the interrogation video, the jury took only a few hours to unanimously conclude that Garcia was guilty of first-degree murder. During the sentencing hearing, Xinran's parents requested the judge to impose the harshest sentence on Garcia. Although Garcia eventually apologized to the victim's family, the judge noted that throughout the trial, Angel Garcia showed no remorse and appeared emotionless. Therefore, the judge did not believe Garcia's apology was sincere. Ultimately, the judge sentenced Angel Garcia to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
We're very satisfied with the outcome of the sentencing. Mr. Garcia was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. That's what we were seeking. That is essentially the maximum possible punishment short of the death penalty, which we decided not to pursue in this case. So we're very satisfied with the outcome of this case.
4 years after the crime occurred in 2019, Ochoa's trial began. Over the years, it was evident that the attitude of this arrogant murderer had significantly improved. Like his two accomplices, he also received a life sentence without the possibility of parole. As for Jonathan Del Carmen, who served as the driver at the time, although he did not directly participate in the murder and robbery under California's felony murder rule, the criminal responsibility of all 4 suspects in Xinran's case was the same. However, before the trial, Jonathan Del Carmen reached a plea deal with the police. His charge was reduced to second-degree murder. In court, he was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 15 years. However, in 2021, Jonathan Del Carmen's attorney filed an appeal because California had recently passed a new law that could significantly reduce his prison time. California Governor Jerry Brown signed Senate Bill 1437 in 2018, which stipulates that only those who directly participate in or exhibit reckless disregard for human life should face felony murder charges. On this point, both the police and the judge agreed with the defense attorney's argument that under the new law, Jonathan Del Carmen's sentence should indeed be reconsidered. Ultimately, the driver's sentence was reduced to 3 years in prison. However, by that time, Jonathan Del Carmen had already served over 7 years, so he was released on the same day. After the incident, the University of Southern California held a memorial service for Xinran. The university's vice president announced the establishment of a scholarship fund named after Xinran, dedicated to supporting graduate students like him.
The Xinran G Scholarship to be awarded to a master's student from China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, or Macau. The scholarship will forever keep his memory alive.
Students attending the memorial service expressed both shock over Xinran's death and growing concerns about campus security. They pointed out that many Chinese students may lack strong safety awareness, contributing to today's tragedy. Additionally, the incident occurred in a student apartment complex that the university had claimed to be one of the safest. Many Chinese students might not use the university's campus cruiser service. Despite the late hours, many students still walk home alone. Therefore, I believe that some of the support and services offered by the university are not being fully utilized by the students. While remembering Xinran, many Chinese students also voiced dissatisfaction with the university's security measures. Just 2 years earlier, in 2012, Wu Ying and Ku Ming, also students at the University of Southern California, were tragically shot dead less than a mile from the campus. Apart from these incidents, the University of Southern California has not been particularly safe in recent years. In 2008, Bryshon Nelam, an Olympic silver medalist sprinter at USC, was shot and injured at a Halloween party near the campus. That same year, on September 18th, Brian Forrest, a 23-year-old USC film student, was fatally stabbed in an apartment building near the campus. And there have been many other safety-related incidents as well. Investigative data shows that in 2012, the crime rate at the University of Southern California and its surrounding area was more than twice the average for the entire Los Angeles area. Specifically, there were 2,771 robberies that year, averaging 7.6 incidents per day. For many years, USC has implemented a series of security measures, such as restricting campus access to outsiders from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. daily, installing additional cameras on campus, license plate readers, and fingerprint scanners in dormitories. However, it is clear that these measures have not significantly improved the security situation around the university. In fact, when Xinran received his admission letter from USC, he was already aware of the Wu Ying and Q Ming case that occurred there. But he believed that after such an incident, USC would have improved and strengthened its security measures, making similar events unlikely to happen again. Thus, he ultimately chose USC. Unfortunately, a disaster struck him personally. After the incident, Xinran's father, Ji Songbo, stated that Xinran's grandparents, who are over 80 years old, can only sustain their lives with the help of medication after this great shock. Xinran's mother is unable to sleep every night and relies on sleeping pills to get any rest. As for Mr. Ji himself, who was previously in good health, his heart has now started experiencing severe issues following this tragedy. Now it is 2024, and 10 years have passed since Xinran's case. Yet, the pain and loss remain for his family. We hope that time can ease their sorrow, helping them gradually heal and overcome the grief. So, today's story about Xinran and the 4 perpetrators has come to an end. Remember, even in the safest places, you must stay alert and be aware of your surroundings. Avoid going out after dark. We hope everyone can always find peace in their lives. If you enjoyed this content, please support us by clicking like and sharing the video. Goodbye, and see you next time.